Good evening to the YSN Village, man. It's great to be in the house tonight. Man, the year is flying by already. We're in week probably 5 of the school year. And for us basketball folks, we're getting closer and closer to the start of the season. What we wanted to do tonight, man, was really just bring in something. Obviously, the YSN Village talks a lot about the stuff off the court, whether it's technology literacy and how to get into tech, financial education, emotional intelligence, but we also must focus in on sports specific education as well. So tonight, I thought it would be great before the season gets started, before all these dudes want to beat each other and beat me, and I want to beat them. I figured tonight would be a good time for us to kick things off. And really, you can just hear from all these guys and their perspectives and have an opportunity to help, yourself and your player be able to make better decisions to help them get on the court. We're going to ask them some serious questions, and I've asked them all to be very transparent, as I will be always. And so I encourage you also to leave any questions or comments that you have in our chat, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. And we'll try to make sure we get all those questions answered tonight. So again, I thank you for joining, and we're going to jump right into this. We're going to try to keep this as close as possible to an hour. The last time we did this, it went about 2 hours, and I want to be respectful for everyone's time, but we definitely do want to take advantage of this opportunity. So I'm going to bring these guys in and then introduce them. Let me bring these gentlemen to the stage. So I'm gonna look at it as I see it on my screen. Actually, I'm going to start from the bottom. So first, we got my brother Donnie Bowling from Anderson High School here in Indiana. He's been there now. I think this is going into your 3rd year at Anderson. Is that correct?
4th year.
Fourth year. But
4th year.
Yeah, he's coached in the city of Indianapolis, Manual for a number of years and had a lot of success there, and has now moved into Anderson, Indiana, and has done a great job at Anderson High School. To his right, Coach Damon Turner, who's now been at Tech, 4
years.
Goodness gracious, man. I remember when you got the job, man. So going into his 4th year, has had a high level of success, had some really, really good players come through there that are now playing in college. And he's doing a great job here in the city of Indianapolis, downtown Indy. Just above him is brother Chris Hawkins at Crispus Attucks, where the Big O played back in the day. And he's done a wonderful job down at Crispus Attucks, won a state championship, won a city title, or probably multiple. I'm sure he can tell us that, but just done a fantastic job. And then to his left, and this brother is not new to coaching, but he's new as a head varsity high school coach. He's coached his very successful Indy Eagles basketball club, the number of kids in college, and now gets the opportunity to serve and help some young men at Kipp Legacy High School as well in the city of Indianapolis. So, and myself, Coach O, you guys hear from me all the time, but I coach at Tindley High School, which is a high school in the middle of Indianapolis as well. So each of us have coached in the city or still coaching the city of Indianapolis, and I think we've got some unique perspectives to share. So let me first just welcome just a real quick intro, whatever you'd like to say. Coach Donnie, let's start with you. Well, we'll start with you, Coach Damon. I think that Coach Donnie was adjusting the monitor. So anything you'd like to say just to kick us off with? Thank you for coming on, man, for sure.
I appreciate you having me. Just Coach Damon Turner, Arsenal Tech High School. Going in my 4th year of the season, so looking forward to a great season, a little better than last year, but just looking forward to a great season, a great group of guys, and I'm grateful to be on with a loaded crew here. Appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Coach Donnie, you want to do a quick intro and anything you'd like to share about Anderson?
No, the whole thing is it's been great. This afternoon we had our K through 6 together trying to get the youth involved, but I expect great things from our guys this year. and it's just going to be a good time. And then being a part of Coach Turner, Coach Mel, Coach Hawkins, and you is a great thing.
Definitely, brother. Appreciate you jumping on. How about you, Mr. Hawkins?
Appreciate the opportunity to come on with these legends. Uh, I'm still trying to get to their level, especially Coach Bowen, Coach O, Coach Damon, Coach Butler. Y'all been doing it longer than me. So just an opportunity to take some things, steal some things, and, sharpen my toolbox. But excited for our group. We return majority of everybody. So, expectations are one thing, but once again, we just got to stack days. And if we stack days, we'll give ourselves a good shot to do some things this year.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And how about you, Coach Butler, man, taking the new job here in the city, bro? What's on your mind these days?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me. I really feel privileged that you invited me to be around these guys. Coach Hawkins, he's a bit modest. I'm trying to get up to his level. Donnie and Damon. I mean, all you guys. This is my first head coaching job. I've coached for a while, assistant coach, AAU. Right now at Kipp, I'm trying to lay down a foundation for these young men. Got a good group of guys. Might even have to tweak you guys' brains a little bit to help us out over there on our end. But again, I appreciate you guys bringing me in.
Definitely, man. Well, let's get right into it, man. I've got a few questions that I want to kind of pose to each of you guys, and then what I also again encourage anyone viewing to please put your question in the chat, and if it's and also just say if it's for somebody in particular, please notate that, and we'll try to make sure we get the question answered. But the goal of this is to help you, you guys be able to understand either where your kid is or what they need to do, and then hopefully provide some perspective to you as a parent as well. Because none of us do this for money. None of us do this, just we do this because we love it. We love to help young people on the court, help them get to college, help them be successful, productive young people. So definitely encourage you to pick any of our brains tonight. So the first thing I want to start off with, and we'll start with you, Coach Damon. How do you determine? Yeah, I'm messing with you right off the bat. How do you determine? Since we play you anyway this year, how do you determine your starters? Is it based off like upperclassmen? Is it height? Strength. I mean, what goes into that? What factors into that for you?
Well, for me, we don't have any 5 stars like Attucks, so I have to be very strategic. We have to be very strategic. So mine's based off basically, who we play. You know what I mean? Again, it's just a strategy, and then who works hard during the week. You know what I mean? I may have stars that don't work hard during the week that I'll sit, and say, well, you didn't put any effort in this week. I can't start you. So it's just to me about who grinds harder, who wants it more, who works harder. And those are guys that, I feel comfortable, starting that week. So my lineup last year probably changed 11 times. You know what I mean? Trying to find a combination of guys who want to play together. You know what I mean? So mine's just based on, strategic, maybe strategically who we plan and who works harder that week in practice.
So Coach, before we move on, let me ask you, did you catch any flack for that, whether it be from parents, whether it be from kids not understanding, like if you changed your starting lineup 11 times?
Well, it's a little easy. I don't think anyone can say anything when you're not producing on the court. Data doesn't lie, film doesn't lie. So when you're not producing on the court and those type of things, and you're not winning, I think that can help you a little along the way of changing your lineups. You know what I'm saying? If the saying, if something's not broke, don't fix it. Well, it was broke several times, so I tried to fix it, and it is what it is at the end of the day. But you just try to find that combination of group of guys who want to play together, who want to give it their all, and who's gonna run through a brick wall for you. as a coach. So, you live, you learn. But I think that was just, the kind of the hand we were dealt last season.
Definitely. How about you, Coach Hawkins? What factors into your starting lineup? If I'm a parent and I've got a kid and I think he's, very talented and he's playing for you and your program, what factors into who you put out there on the court?
I kind of agree with what Damon said. I think a lot of it's going to be practice. Also, during the week, depending on the team we play. I mean, some years you'll have size, some years you won't. Some teams will go 5 guards, so you may have to change up how you do it. But I think, another factor, school. Are they coming to school? Are they attending practice? Those are some outside factors, that get thrown curveballs. Because if you're not here by, 9:30 or something, you can't practice or play. So those are just some added details where we just make sure kids know that. Because once again, there's no wiggle room with that. So then, like I said, practice is going to be big for us as far as determining the starters. Because like I said, 2 years ago, we started freshman and 1 senior. So it doesn't really matter as far as freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. It's really just going to be who are the best players, who's practicing the best. And then kind of, your last determining factor is kind of who you playing that week. And then kind of, being strategic with how you want to attack or play them or how you want to defend them.
Makes sense. Coach Bowling, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think for me, the whole starting thing, it starts in the summer. So I go from the summer, I go from this fall, what's going on, and then we see who's the best team. Like this year, we really, really want to be defensive. So whoever's going to play defense, like that's who's going to play. Like it's going to be that simple. Because we feel as though we got a lot of players who can do the same thing, and they're really good. But at the end of the day, whoever plays defense the most, that's going to help us win and get where Coach Hawkins is, like winning a state championship, things like that.
Good stuff. And Coach Butler, obviously, I had you go last on this. I know this is something that will be new. It's not new for you in terms of coaching basketball, but now you're at a high school program. What do you feel like will be some of the deciding factors that, how you come up with your lineup or who's going to play?
Well, right now, as far as the talent that we have in Kipp, it's pretty much equal across the board. So, like Coach Hawkins and Coach Damon and Coach Bowling said, a lot of factors come into play. Who's receptive in practice? Who's coachable? It's not necessarily going to be for me the 5 best players. It's going to be the 5 right players. Those guys that are going to come in and they play well together, have chemistry to go along with what we're trying to implement as far as our scheme. I mean, you can have a talented kid out there, but he might disrupt everything. In my mind, like I said, those 5 right kids that come in and want to do everything that we're asking them to do. And then those other factors, academically, as Coach said earlier, it's the same with us. If you're not in school by 9:30, you don't get to participate. Well, that can hurt the team. So those rules are in place. And for me, why would I start a kid who's not accountable in the classroom as well? So that's just my take on it. And again, I'm a defensive-minded coach, so I'm going to look at those kids that are extremely defensive-minded as well.
Makes sense. And I would say, I always tell my players, I've told my parents before, typically, like, there's some things like, how volatile is a kid? How erratic is a kid? Is the kid miss practice? Is he late to practice all the time? Ultimately, I think any of us are going to play the kids we trust, the kids we trust the most that will do the things that we're asking them to do on the defensive end, on the offensive end, and stick with the game plan and whatever that is for that game. So I think that's one thing, is just building coaches' trust, and that happens every day of the week. That happens in the summer, like what you're saying, Coach Bowling. And then the other thing I feel like is if you can help your kid talk about with them what can you be the best at? You know, if we're looking at our roster, each of us are looking at our teams. Who's the best defensive player? Who's the best rebounder? Who's the best shooter? Who's the best ball handler, decision maker? In most cases, whoever those people are, those kids are going to play. I think taking that into consideration with your kid and being honest with them, you know, they may be, you know, working, just use a big guy as an example. They may be working on their perimeter game, but if they're the best rebounder, they go rebound. And I promise you that kid is going to get to play and then start doing the things that maybe they want to do. And so I think those are some of the things that I would tell a kid, I would tell a parent that, you know, whatever you can be the best at for this team, this program, you're probably going to get to play if you're the best at it. So that's another way I feel like you can get on the floor. Any other comments before we move on? Cool. So I did want to ask this because, you know, we all have discussions with players and each of us are in city schools. You know, obviously the schools in the surrounding, you know, county are typically much larger. Now, I know, Donnie, you're in Anderson, so that's a large school. But do you guys feel that the name of the high school is really the main plug for a kid to be able to get to play in college? Or do you think it's the high school coach? And I'll start with you, Coach Hawkins, on this one.
I mean, you could, if you look at the history of schools, and I would say more like the 60s, 70s, 80s, I think in that point in time, yeah, the name of the school was more prominent for kids to, hey, I'm going here, I'm going there, just because of just the history and just what teams have did. I think when you're looking at it now, it's going to be the high school coach and kind of what his system is. You know, what does he produce and how does he, you know, get his players to the next level. So I would just think it's not right now saying, hey, I want to go to, you know, Crispus Attucks or, you know, let's be all the way real. Me and Coach Damon deal with the negativity and the issues of IPS. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we're fighting about double-edged sword just with the name and just trying to get people to, you know, look at us as a school first before the basketball piece. So right now it's coaches and then the coach's track record. And then also I think the coach's system. And, you know, I think, you know, if you look at it, Coach Boland has did it at a high level. Coach Damon has did it at a high level. You know, we've consistently been able to push them out, no matter if it's D1, D2, D3, NAI, JUCO. So I think all three of us do it the right way. It's really just, you know, 1 year, Coach Damon, if you was trying to go over there when he had Reggie and them, you need to be a 5-star to play. Then when you graduate, now these next opportunities come up for the next set of kids. So it's just all about timing and then going to the right place and maximizing opportunities.
How about you, Coach Bowling? What do you think about that? Do you think it's more the school or do you think it's the coach? Just in your opinion.
So I'm going to go a little bit out of the box with it. I think when you're saying getting to the next level, I think you really got to look at AAU and you got to look at the partnership with that. Mm-hmm. And that's what I tell parents all the time. A lot of times it's the kids getting seen in AAU and then we help develop them from our part, but it's all like it's the mentality of it. It takes a village. Like you can't just do it. It's just not high school. It's just not AAU. It's all of us together. And then like Coach Hawkins said, it's style. Like, are you going to let them play? Are you going to let them miss some shots? Or are you going to be a person who's going to be like, if you miss one shot, you can't shoot anymore. Like you got to be able to play your game too.
Definitely. Coach Butler, any thoughts on that?
Well, being predominantly an AAU coach most of my career, I go along with Coach Bowling. That relationship with that AAU coach and that high school coach is a big impact on helping these young men get to college. You know, a lot of times a young man will be in high school, but the system doesn't fit. But he goes to an AAU program where the system fits, and he can showcase his abilities, and that in turn will help him to get to the next level. Then again, Normally when I get kids for my AAU program, I talk to almost every high school coach just to see what does that young man need, and to see if he's actual fit for our program. And that coach will normally tell me, I talk to Donnie all the time, and he'll tell me such and such needs this. He said, Mel, I need you to get him to do this because we're gonna need him next year. And we make a focus of doing that, putting that young man, building his confidence, and getting him to play, just to play better, so that he will be able to play at a high level for his high school and give him that opportunity to go to the next level. So again, I think that relationship between AAU and high school is a huge factor for these young people to get into the next level.
Definitely. How about you, Coach Damon? I know you got a strong background in coaching AAU as well, before high school, but what are your thoughts on that in terms of
it's just
players?
funny, but before I became a high school coach, I used to think really, not to be funny, high school coaches, as far as head coaches, and did nothing really, for their students. You know what I mean? I thought everything really matriculated through AAU. I'm like,
Exactly.
and then when I got to be in high school, for some reason I feel like if you're that 3, 4, 5-star, I think majority of your offers come through AAU. But I think if you're that JUCO, that NAIA, that D3, D2, that more or less comes from school. That's just my thought process. As I've kind of learned over the last couple of years, because I think when Tone and Rashid were kind of teetering, at the last minute, I really didn't know much about JUCO. You know what I mean? And I probably had like 80 calls from different JUCOs around the country, you know what I mean? And I'm like, man, I got so tired of talking, you know what I mean? Because everybody, of course, saying the same thing, telling you the same thing. But I didn't know how imperative JUCO was, like, from jumping from JUCO to D1, and how great it was, how some of these JUCOs really had the same kind of concept as Division Ones. You know what I mean? The work ethic, how they kind of pushed them like college programs. You know what I mean? So I feel that the coach more or less is ideal to get coaches to get kids to the next level more than the program.
Yeah, and I mean, this is obviously not to bash big schools by any stretch, but I just think, when I look at the group here, and I had asked you guys to try to add up just over the past 3 years, how many kids that you've helped go to college, because the numbers all say that 7% of any high school basketball player is going to play at some level in college, 7, right? And I know we've had over the last 3 years, 9 out of 12 seniors, that's 75%. 9 out of 12 have played at the next level. And I would probably argue, I don't know if you guys have any numbers or just in terms of what you guys have done, but right here in the city, you got 5 guys that are doing nothing but helping kids go to college. And so I think a lot of times what I see is some of the bigger schools, many of those kids, they don't get to play either until they're a junior, some even a senior. And so, the longer, if your kid really wants to play, and I think it goes back to what you want and what they want, but if they're not on the floor on varsity and they're, 6'3" and under, it certainly does, I think, diminish an opportunity to play at the next level. It doesn't help it. I'll say that. And so I think when I look at these guys, I mean, you guys have all, if a kid can play, even if he's not a starter, he's getting worked in there. He's going to get to make some mistakes. So when he comes back as a sophomore, he's a vet, in a sense. He's ready to play. He's ready to contribute on a varsity level. And so a lot of times when I see kids that, go to these big schools and then they don't play, and then by the time they're a junior or senior, everybody sleep on them, right? They're sleep on me. Well, no, I mean, you probably just didn't choose the right school, right? Because, you just didn't play. You didn't get to play varsity enough. And unfortunately, unless a kid is 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", most people aren't paying as much attention to JV or freshmen, right? The college coaches, at least. So you need those programs, but at the same time, if a kid wants to play in college, the sooner you can get on the court on that varsity level, I think it just helps overall. And you guys have done a great job of facilitating that. Any other comments about that? Good deal. Good deal. So let's move on. And I know, Coach Mel, I'm going to start with you on this one because I know you probably, to my knowledge, have had the most experience with them. But do you feel like prep schools are the answer for most players? And this is either during high school, like transferring to a prep school, or post-grad as well. So what are your thoughts about where those fit? Are they – I just hear a lot of kids, oh, man, I'm going to a prep school. Like, okay, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I'm an advocate for prep schools, all right? But a lot of times, I mean, you have some bad prep schools out there. They're not really schools. They've been thrown together and they put a little schedule together. I know of one, I don't know why you call it a prep school. It's just a prep team where they just would fall apart. And, but they do have some legitimate schools out there. So in my mind, when you go to a prep school, there's several factors that you have to take in mind. You have to look at the cost of the school, the exposure that school is going to give you, and what are they going to do as far as developing your skill set. There are some great schools out there that are doing that. I've had several kids that are at several prep schools. I got a young man who's at a prep school. He's leaving next week. And I push for him to go because he's young. He's athletic, he can play, but he's just not at the same level as kids who are ready to go D1 or D2. But with maturation, going to a solid prep school, it can happen for him. There's no guarantee about that, but the key is if you go to the right school, if it has the right culture. I'm not going to mention any of the schools, but I try to explain this to parents. I had a young man, his parents spent $30,000 for him to go to a prep school down in Florida, but I knew he was a D3 kid. And after a year there, he still went D3. I had another kid, he went to a prep school. He was an NAIA school, NAIA level at that moment, but he went prep. Great coaches there, great teachers. He ended up going D2. So, yeah, I believe in prep schools. I think that it could be very advantageous for these young men. If they have, you got to have talent. You got to have talent. If you're a young man and you're just limited on talent, prep school may not be for you. You might want to settle for whatever you have. But other than that, I buy in with the prep school philosophy.
Coach Bowman, you've done a lot with prep schools as well. What are your thoughts on prep schools?
I think it's all about the situation. I've had several kids go prep school, and it's worked for them. And I've had some where it hasn't worked for them. But, like, I got one at a prep school right now, and I'm looking at him, and, they've been able to keep an eye on him and do the right things, and, he's doing a good job. I think Mel knows Cavassier. He went to Redemption, and that helped him a lot to get to the next level. And you have some that fall, but the whole thing, I think, with prep school, I think is needed. But so what I'll say, like, what affects us as high school coaches more than anything, because right now I got in a student who, like, prep schools are going after, they're calling and saying, like, look, you need to come in right now at high school. And Chris probably has the same thing. It's like, are we giving them what they need from a high school level? And I feel so we are. I think Hawkins is. I think everybody else is. But so the post-grad aspect, I think, is needed to a certain degree. If a kid, and what the kids need to really know is you can only take 2 classes in prep school. That's it. Like, after that, like, if you're like 10 classes off of that 2.3 core, you know what I'm saying? You can go JUCO, you can go prep school to mature, but you're not going D1 after prep school.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a good point. Good point. 2 classes. Yeah, I think that's always forgotten. I don't think people consider that much at all.
Right, especially the post-grad, because I get them talking to some of my players right now, and I'm like, Hey, it's only 2, man.
So like the schools that come get kids in high school, like, you know, that we obviously know very talented kid from Fishers going to Lalamere. Like when people see that, like what do you hear from backlash on that, Coach Damon? I love the kid, like his dad, great family. But what do you hear from like other kids? Do you hear kids say that, hey man, I want to go to a prep school, or is it just like he's an elite talent, so that's why they came for him? What do you hear from that?
Well, most definitely. I mean, I'll give you an example. Reggie Bass.
Yeah.
His freshman year, I kind of knew Reggie as far as education wise. He really wasn't, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He really didn't care for school like that. But you know, he wanted to go, you know, to Muncie or whatever school. But I already knew the outcome. Well, you know, but I'll let you do that, and you
Mm-hmm.
know, we'll see what happens. So, of course, he had a great freshman year at Muncie, but then after basketball, you ain't see him no more. You know, Maryland school, 1.0 maybe, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to go. You know, mom and I'm mad. I'm like, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you want this kid to survive, and you want to play college basketball or have an even chance, because he has that talent, you know, the talent to get to that next level, he has to go. And, you know, and he has to get away from here. So when he went to prep school at Hamilton Heights, which of course, you know, they got a couple guys, right, 2 or 3 in the NBA right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was perfect. You know what I mean? He got his grades up. He worked hard. You know, the class sizes is what, 6, 7, 8 in the class. You know, you go half a day, you still get to work on your craft. Yeah, so it really, really helped him develop, not even that, but mature. You know what I mean? And understand that there is no way around this. You know what I mean? You gotta get your grades, you gotta get your GPA up if you want to play at the next level. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And it's, you know, I think it really saved his career. You know what I mean? Because if he would have stayed in Muncie, we would probably never even heard that name again. You know what I mean? So I agree with Bolin and Mel. It's situational. You know what I mean? If we could, you know, just we'll take Xavier Booker. You know what I mean? Everybody was like, you know, his senior year, he's gone, and you know, things like that. Well, he had every offer in the world. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
Maybe he could have went there and played ball more and got bigger and, you know, stronger and things like that. But at the end, in hindsight, I mean, he still was what, number 2, 3. He still probably probably got a really, really nice NIL deal at Michigan State, and he's playing for one of the top coaches in the country. So I think it's situational again, and that's just how I see it.
Definitely. Hawk, you got any thoughts? I mean, obviously you got a pretty talented kid that I would imagine it is maybe hearing from somebody. But what are your thoughts on the prep schools?
No, I just think the biggest thing is just I agree with Damon, situational, just depending on what you need to do. I think the post-grad option, you know, you have some kids that don't develop quickly. And, you know, I kind of, you know, hey, it may not be the offers that you want. So a post-grad option may be needed. So there are some situations there where you have conversations with your kids as they become from sophomores to juniors to seniors. And let's just say it's not at the level where they're at. I think post-grad, those options are needed so a kid can get an extra year to kind of get to where he's at. And then if he doesn't, like those offers that, he had as a senior, you're able to play a little bit more and then kind of figure that situation out. But as far as just with the prep schools, you got to do your research.
Yeah.
Some of these prep schools are legit. Some of these prep schools are not. And it can really put you in a situation of, not knowing, what's going to happen. You got the situation with my guy, Jalen Hooks, and just with the Donda situation where, you just got to do your research and make sure everything's taken care of. It goes from y'all playing to the season abruptly ends. So those are just situations where do the research, make sure, they got everything that they're supposed to have from the academics to living situation and everything like that. And then as long as parents are open and honest, about the situation of, hey, this school called, hey, we're thinking about it. You know, I'm okay with it. Just because, like I said, you know, we're trying to help kids, man. At the end of the day, you know, there's some coaches that'll say, hey, I made you, I did this and that. And I think that's the wrong way to go about it. I think if it can help the kid and put him in a direction where he can be successful on and off the court, then go ahead and do that. But like I said, just with families, just do your research. Just make sure everything pans out. But outside of that, there's pros and cons on making the move. But you're only going to see that just with a lot of the top kids. Now you'll hear some of your bench players and your 9, 10, 11, 12 talking about they going to prep school, but you know, we could create a prep school in Indiana for them. You know, just with what they always trying to say.
Right.
So yeah.
Let me ask you that though, because I had a couple kids, you know what I mean, 12, 13, 14th, and they end up going to a prep school and you know, they got to pay that money, you know what I mean? As a coach, you know, I'm trying to tell them without telling them, you know what I mean? Trying to make them feel down and all that. But, you know, is it just one of those things you let them figure out the hard way? Or, I mean, because you know the writing on the wall, you know what I mean?
I think so, because I think sometimes you have to learn from decisions. And so I think a lot of it is, hey, yeah, I'm going to this post grad. When that first bill hit, you know, that's the reality of it's not on scholarship, and you know, you got to figure out how you're gonna pay that.
Right. And then like I've heard from some players of mine, it's just like this. They told me you know, they give 2 pretty much scholarships, and the rest at least are gonna pay $10,000 or more.
Yep.
Get two's gonna go for free. The rest gonna pay $10,000. So if you ain't one of those guys, which one of my
I think we lost you, Donnie. Yes.
I know. I think another factor is, man. You know, like Chris was saying, you know, you got kids who are you know that prep school is not going to help them, but they really want to go, and then you're transparent with their parents. I'm really transparent, and I'll tell them, look, I think you're going to waste money. I don't think that your son is going to improve that much more going to a prep school. You know, he could probably play at this level, but you need to think of it. It's an investment. It may be a very bad investment for you and your family. I mean, the son, he's thinking emotionally. He just saw one of his teammates go, you know, advertise it on social media. I'm going to such and such prep school, and he's on his parents. You know, I think I'm good enough. I want to go, but it's going to cost you $10,000, $20,000. Is it really worth it when you can take that money and use it and go to a D3 or NAI to play basketball? You know, but a lot of parents don't. They're ignorant to that.
Yeah.
You know, and that's they need to get educated on that aspect. You know.
Well, like I had a kid, you know, Tyler, you know, Shelton, he has a lot of upside. You know what I mean? 35, 36. You know, vert and all that. And, you know, he had a couple JUCOs and NAIAs, you know what I mean? And, you know, he was like, well, coach, I just think I need to go mature a year. And I'm like, Tyler, just because you go prep school, one, okay, you can maybe mature, but you can still come out with the same offers or maybe not even another offer. You could be done. So, I mean, it's a chance you have to bet on yourself if that's what you want to do. So he bet on himself. So, I mean, I hope it works out, but I'm like, dude, go to JUCO. It's free, you know, or go to take the NAI. It's free. It's full ride. But, you know,
no, that's a good point. Coach Bowling, before we move, I wanted to ask you, we lost you there for a second. So I didn't know if you had something else that you wanted to share.
No, I just seen the prep school stuff, you know. I have one in prep school now. I've had a couple who've had successful prep school, and it just one of them told me like you got to pay the, you know, 2's going to get a free scholarship. The other's going to pay about $10,000 or more. And then the other thing I look at prep schools, I look at them a lot like, and I hate to say this, but like AAU programs, you got some really great AAU programs, but then you guys know you got some programs who really ain't doing what they're supposed to do. And so that's kind of like the prep school philosophy. Like I look at it like there's some really great prep schools, but man, there's some where, you know, you can't really trust them.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And just far as kind of going, I'd like to kind of break it up. Undergrad, like prep schools versus post-grad prep schools. So what I think that it can be dangerous sometimes if a kid does leave a really good situation. Like if they're the man, let's say they've been the man freshman year, potentially, and definitely sophomore year, and they leave that. I think it's still to build confidence as the man or the primary option on a team is what ultimately you want to go to and continue to develop. And I think sometimes kids leave those type of situations too soon because when they go get around other kids that are just as good or better, might be stronger, and then they go from being a primary option to now coming off the bench prematurely before they're mentally ready for that. That can actually work against them. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's another thing, and the parent really has to be in lockstep with the kid. To kind of know that the kid is a worker, the kid is going to be okay with starting from the bottom, working his way up, unless they're giving your kid that full scholarship, right, Donnie? I mean, if they say your kid is free, we're going to put the ball in his hands, that's one thing. But if you're going to a prep school and it's just like, okay, they asked me to come too, but I got to pay this, when you leave that situation, it may not go to where you keep going higher and higher because, when I think about some of the best players in the NBA, what we're able to enjoy as fans of the game of basketball with CJ McCollum or Ja Morant or Dame Lillard, or because these guys stayed in positions of dominance and they kept building on that confidence. They didn't go to some of those bigger schools that may not have allowed them to continue to flourish. So I think that that's something that when kids and parents are trying to analyze, okay, I got this opportunity from a prep school, do I take it or not? From a post-grad standpoint, again, that goes back to the situation. I think, I had a kid, Aaron Humphrey, that, had left, wasn't playing at a large school much, came to our school, had two really, really good seasons. I think 18-10 his senior year, had several D1s come in and see him, but just still weren't convinced that he was a D1 level player. He went to a prep school and had the same numbers, 19 and 11 or something like that. And, we talked and it was just like, you need to keep doing that against college level players or against older players. And the more you show up and prove it, the higher I think that likelihood goes up that you'll get a D1 scholarship offer. And he got one. He got one late, but it was all you can go to one school anyway, right? So he got one. And he'll go play in the NEC conference for St. Francis. So, I think he'll be a kid that has worked. It worked out for him. He bet on himself, took that chance, and now he's getting an opportunity to play Division I. So, again, it's just situational because what you're saying, Coach Butler, some kids are going to have the same offers if they have offers, whether they go or not, because – if you grow an inch and a half and you're a PG and you're 6 foot and you grow to 6'2" in that time, if you're young, I mean, yeah, it could change. It could really change for you. But in most cases, it is going to be the same whether you go or you don't go. And like you said, Coach Damon, taking the money, if you can get in JUCO, that might be a better option, especially if it's free. So kind of around this theme, I think this is a good segue. I know, Hawk, we talked about this a few times, but who should be involved in a kid's decision-making process? Because this was different 10 years ago, 15 years ago. You might have been dealing with a parent, maybe a grandparent, but who are we seeing now that's involved in a kid's decision-making process about, their high school career? So let's start with you, Hawk, on this one. Just some of the things that you've seen and had to deal with.
I think me, Coach Bowling, Coach Damon, we identify players early in middle school and kind of try to, do our thing as far as, hey, you should come here, you should come there. But I mean, first you got to talk to the mama, you got to talk to the daddy, you got to talk to the trainer. You know, you may have to talk to a pastor or somebody that's even close to them to kind of, you know, get them to look at your school. Then, you know, the next thing is like getting them to come to a game, like a high school game, and kind of showcase it.
Yeah.
And then kind of have them come downstairs, see the halftime speech, halftime huddle. Now, you know, if we're trying to showcase facilities, then I'm at the bottom of the totem pole. Kipp probably got better facilities than us, gym wise. So, I mean, I can't really. Yeah, I can't really do anything with that. But like, you got to talk to a lot of people, and I think you just got to be honest and open about, you know, the opportunity, what you can do for them. But like it, you know, back in the day, it was really just talking to mom and dad. But since we hired so many trainers, and you know, if you ain't in good standing with a trainer, you're probably not gonna get a kid. So it just really depends on what you want. But I think, you know, with all of us, we win at a high level. So I think that's one of the biggest things. And then we're always on a platform. And I'll always say that, you know, being over here, we're on a platform, we're in the toughest sectional. And like I said, we're going to always play a high-level schedule. And then it doesn't hurt that, you know, you can make a phone call to the Big O and then have him talk to somebody. So that's just the thing. But, yeah, like I said, you probably talking to 7 or 8 people before they even make a decision about what high school they'll go to, let alone if they're going to stay at the high school.
Good stuff. Good stuff. How about you, Coach Bowling? What have you seen in your experience in terms of who you need to meet with, talk to, influence, that kind of thing?
Well, my influence hasn't been too great, because if so, I would have had Jalen Harrelson. But but the whole deal is, man, you talk to everybody. You talk to grandma, anybody you think who has you know, a key influence, you're going to talk to. Like I'll talk, but like the whole deal is, you know, I fight the same thing in Anderson a little bit as IPS, because in Anderson for some reason it's considered IPS, and it's not. It's really not a bad school. It's a really good school, but you know, Anderson's like 15 minutes up the road from Fishers, so I'm fighting with Fishers. I'm fighting with HSC, you know, Liberty Christian, and that's fine. But the whole thing is, somehow I have to convince the whole. The education, athletics, everything is great, and that we've changed the way that Anderson is. So you talk to everybody, but at the end of the day, I think to get those guys to come to your school, they really got to trust you, and that's the whole thing. So that's my thing on that.
Coach Butler, I know this is new. I mean, for you, but you've still had to do it from an AAU standpoint as well. But what have you seen in terms of how to influence, and you know, what have you done?
Well, from an AAU standpoint, it's essentially it's usually the mom to start. I mean, we talk to the dads, but it's usually the mom or the grandma, you know, trying to convince them, telling them, okay, this is what we've done in the past. This is our playing style. This is what we do to help your son. It's outside of basketball, different things. So, but at Kipp, you know, we have a middle school. We have a feeder. Found out last week we lost two of the best players out of our eighth grade team. They're going to a couple other schools.
Attucks.
I plan to change that one of them's going to Attucks. I don't know what the other school is. I mean, I got to go in and work.
Nice guy here, man. You see what I'm talking about?
Hey, so I don't know who the kid.
You know, the rich get richer.
Yeah, so I don't know who this kid is. So a lot of people say they going to Attucks, but actually wind up at Arsenal Tech. Damon.
Hey, don't pull Damon into this. Don't try to pull Damon.
I got nothing to do.
Damon has received 3 players from me. So, the rich will lose some players sometimes.
Hey, we'll give one to Anderson. We can take one.
He got so many.
So my plan so my plan is going forward. I'm going to work the room in the middle school games, talk to the parents, talk to our middle school coach should be doing the same to promote them. We're going to bring those teams in to our high school games and, introduce them at halftime to the audience, kind of, pump them up a little bit and make sure that we stay in contact with those young men to help build our program. In the end, like was said earlier, you got to talk to the trainer, you got to talk to the ministers, you have to talk to, anyone that young man is involved with, you got to get an in with them to kind of get them to know you so that they'll say, hey, I think you should go with Coach Butler. I think he's going to be doing some good things here. I think he's going to look out for you. It's not an easy thing to do. It's time consuming, but if you want your program to succeed, you have to do it. And right now at Kipp, I'm right here on the groundwork with it. So going into it next year, I plan to be visible at our middle school games quite a bit. So I got to make sure that if Hawkins is at our middle school games, I got to make sure I'm there too. So I can talk to them young men and tell them why they should come to Kipp instead of going to Attucks. But it's competitive, but that's fine. That's fine. But in the end, if you can convince that parent and that young man to trust you, then I think you'll be okay.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've noticed kind of over the last couple of years is like, I had to start asking people like, what is going to happen if it doesn't work out? Like wherever, somebody's telling a kid to go, like, I hope those people that are involved are going to help whatever the next opportunity would need to be. And I think you got to look at people's motives. You got to look at, and most importantly, you got to look at wherever the school is that a parent is going to send their kid. You got to look at that track record. If you want your kid to play in college, how often is this coach helping kids go to college? Even if they didn't start, even if they didn't, have the most points or whatever. Because that there, I think, is the biggest thing you can really hang your hat on is results. That's what we're judged off of. And that's the other thing, like, when kids move around, people talk about it, but us as coaches are going to move on. We've all proven we can deal with adversity. We're going to still win games, regardless of what the roster is. We've all sort of proven that. And the thing that I dislike is when the kid, is moving around and everybody's telling the kid, do this, do that. Like, nobody's going to pick that kid up if it don't work out. It's only going to be a parent and like, well, dang, we shouldn't have did that. You know what I mean? So like, as a parent, I encourage you to really look at results and not what people, cousin, Ray, whoever, trainer, whatever. And some of them know what they're talking about, but a lot of them don't. And so you got to look at the track record of the coach, the coaches that you're considering your kids playing for and how often they get kids to the result you want for your kid. Any other comments, Damon? I don't know if I came to you on that one. Any other comments?
No regulars, like Hawk said, and Mel, and I know the city is tough. The city is super, super tough. Not only are we fighting for kids amongst one another, now you're fighting with the townships. You know what I mean? And how are you going to portray your school over a township school who has 5 basketball courts, 6, 5 to 10 basketball courts, 3,000 or 4,000 people. I think it's a little, I think I see it more in football. I'm just kind of understanding the realm, you know what I mean? When I think if everybody's seen the people going off on Pike and things of that nature, the Pike football program, and, kids just, they're going to BD or they're going to Cathedral or they're going to Chittard or, these big 6A programs for football because they feel that's the only way they can get to college. You know what I mean? So for other schools, how do you change that perspective? I think, like you said, it goes back on the coach. People are not going to Attucks or Tech or Washington or Shortridge, I don't believe, based on the school. You know what I mean? They're going for the coach, the track record. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, that's just the proven record of the coach helps motivate and helps get us kids in our schools. So I think IPS has done a better job lately with the referendum and getting money, to our schools to help, bring some of that perspective back to the school.
Absolutely. Let me show this question here. Let me see if I can show it. So we got a question, and I want to put it up here real fast, and then Coach Boland, we'll start with you. Is playing in June with your high school team more important than playing with your AAU team in terms of recruiting?
I think it's equally important. I think because now it's I don't know if it's going to change or not, but I think they're going to maybe change that so we have about the same amount of time. So we'll have 2 weeks in June, and AAU will have 2 weeks in June.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much. So, like, I put it this way: if it stays the same as what it's like, anytime it's a live period and you can have your kids show them, you need to be showing them. If you're a high school coach, and I'm not trying to like down anybody, but you need to have them at the Charlie Hughes if you're in Indiana. Plain and simple. Like, because you want to show, okay, even if it's just one coach who shows, you want to have the kids have that opportunity to play in front of somebody.
Absolutely. Coach Damon, what do you think?
I personally wouldn't like that rule. I feel like, 2 weeks. What is 2 weeks going to really? What am I going to gain from 2 weeks? I feel personally, I think the whole month is good. I think a lot of times when you get in high school, you don't need that many weekends. I coached 6th, 7th grade, and we played 92 tournaments. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then when I got to high school, coaching high school, I loved it because, you played 3 in, April, 3 in May, and 3 in July. I think that's enough. I think that's enough AAU ball, especially financially, on the weekend for, coaches to see your pedigree of what you can do on the court. So I wouldn't like the 2 weeks because I just don't think that's enough time for you to be able to groom your team, as a collective unit. But, it is what it is. We'll make adjustments and go from there. But that's just my thought process.
Coach Mel, Coach Hawkins, any thoughts there?
I think as far as with June, I think with the high school team, but be more efficient with it. As far as like the top 100, I think some of the times, there are tournaments where teams could be playing more. I know Coach Weiniger, the Fishers, they go down and play in Kentucky. Then the next week they'll play in Charlie Hughes, Cathedral. They go and do it too. I'm not saying the top 100 is bad, but I just think there's a better way to get the kids more looks and team-wise. And then AAU, I just think, man, you play in so much. Like they're adding a 4th shoe circuit with Puma. So right now it's just a lot with AAU. I think, you figure it out because once again, you got the transfer portal. So it looks like April, there'll be a lot of local tournaments. Then May, I believe there'll be one period. Then in June, there'll be 2 periods, but I believe those periods are within a week or a week and a half. So I think, here the collective with the high school association will have to figure out, what's the best, use of, events and trying to get kids seen. But I will always say, June is that month for high school and trying to, get your team ready. You kind of get a look at what you can do, what you can't do, and then what you need to improve once limited contact starts, which we are in now. So you can kind of get ready because, like I said, we'll all be in practice here soon. And Donnie probably be preseason ranked. So
not me. But hey, but one thing I was gonna say with Hawkins, Damon, and Coach O and Mel, like that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, okay, we have the Charlie Hughes, but like, why can't we come up with an event? you know, where we have the teams playing. I know you got to get NCAA sanctioned, but why does it always have to go to everybody else, like those schools like Fisher's, HSC? You know, why can't it go to us? Like that's one thing I'm trying to figure out. Like, how can we get together and like we can make that week and a half and make it benefit all of us, our players, and other people like us who's coaching.
No, I agree with that 100%. I mean, because going back to what you said too, Hawk, I mean, with the top 100, you're just dealing with maybe one player from your team that's going to get to play that live event in front of those coaches at the top 100. But we should be able to put an event together to be able to play. And I'd say Hawkins is probably the most plugged in, at least that I know of us in terms of the IBCA and the Coaches Association here in Indiana. But it absolutely should be an event where we don't have to go to Kentucky to play in a live sanctioned event that weekend prior to Charlie Hughes. I agree with that 100%.
I just think it's more just us kind of coming together and kind of, you know, putting something together, because I think, you know, biggest thing is facilities. You know, we don't always have to go out to Carmel or Westfield and you know, play these games, because it's technically home games for the people in your pod, to be perfectly honest. And then like you playing in a back gym and just different things like that. So I just think, you know, do it like a sectional or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you just come up, hey, you know, we'll play like this. I think, you know, we just got to be just ahead of the game as far as just getting something put down on paper and doing like that. Because like I said, you know, me and Damon, what was it, 2 years ago, we kind of put that the Tech Summer League back together.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's just something where you don't have to drive all the way out to Mojo or Field House or whatever. So it's just more just planning and then getting other schools and teams on board, but really making sure that we have all our top teams ready to play. And I think that's the big thing, because if we do it like how we were doing it before COVID and everything like that, because Buff would come play, Franklin Community would come play down here instead of going to other places. So, like I said, it's just more, we just got to, you know, communicate and just, you know, come together as a group of coaches and do it and come up with just different ways to do it. And then I think we can be successful with it because there's a need for it. And like I said, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, I just was going back and kind of rereading the comment we just had about playing in June with the high school team. Is it more important than playing with the AAU team? I think from a kid standpoint, and I want to make sure we touch on this, is what is the kid showing? Like, what is the kid doing with his high school team versus what is he doing with the AAU team? Is it the same thing? So if it is, then I think that's where you want to show you are what you are. If you're a high level point guard, decision maker, you know, with your high school team, you want to show that you can do that against regional or national talent, you know. And then there's some situations where a kid might be a point guard on an AAU team, but he plays off the ball in high school. So you want to show in that situation you can do both, and that you can be considered a combo, if you will, because, you know, schools will recruit you for different purposes. You know, they may like your length. They may think, hey, this kid can guard multiple 3 spots for us. And, you know, you just want to be able to show whatever it is you do in that school situation and in that AAU situation, you want to show that you can be effective, you know, in my opinion. I was just kind of rereading that comment. And any other
I also think in June, as far as us as coaches, we give the other kids a better opportunity to be seen. Like we're not going to, you know, IU camp or Purdue camp. We may go to Wabash or Bethel or Goshen, or, you know what I mean, to give all the other kids an opportunity, because those kids aren't really on the circuit like that. You know, they're not on the EYBL. They're not on the 3SSB. So maybe playing more live events in June is really not beneficial to them, because, you know, majority of those coaches are at the EYBL and, you know, the 3SSB. So I think when we're playing in June, we can go to different schools and play based on the kids that we have on our high school teams.
Good point. Good point. Any other comments around that? All right, good deal. We'll move on. So one of the things that, let me see, one of the things that we all have heard or faced, the theme that players win games and coaches lose games, right? So in a situation when a kid that you have may not do as well as expected, and so you hear the chatter, well, people say you didn't use the player correctly, right? What do you say as a coach to the kid? You're obviously coaching the kid. You see them every day at school. You see their work habits. You see everything they do and have gotten to know that kid, probably build a personal relationship with that kid. But when that happens, what would you say to that kid, to that player? I'll start with you, Coach Damon.
Sometimes I'll let them prove to me. You know what I mean? If maybe I guess you're playing a wing and you think you need to be a point, well, go get the ball. Show me what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you turn the ball, well, we get our ass kicked anyway. So, if you turning the ball over, you're not making the right decisions, then, then that helps you understand, where you should be. I'm trying to hide you. I'm trying to help you. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
So, and we've all had those players, who can't, you got that one player who can't play no defense. So you trying to put them on, you trying to hide them on the floor. So in those situations, I just tell the kid, look, this is not your ideal, position.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to help save you really from embarrassment. But if you think this is where you need to be, I'll let you go prove to me this is where you need to be. But first, you got to do it in practice. If you can't do it in practice, then we're not even subject to do it in the game. You know what I mean? So
Definitely.
That's kind of how I handle it.
Coach Mel, what do you say when a parent says you didn't use this kid correctly? You're not using them right. What do you do in that situation? And what would you tell your player?
It depends on my frame of mind at the moment.
24 hours. After 24 hours.
Yeah. A parent is never going to see if their son is not playing well, the parent is never going to blame the son. They're never going to blame the player. It's always going to be the coach. The way I'm playing their son is whatever they're doing in practice, whatever he's showing me in practice. I've had, like Coach Damon said, I've had guys that say they were point guards, and I have thrown them in a situation in front of their parents and watched that kid turn the ball over several times. But guess what? I put him in the wrong position again, and he didn't have enough help. So you can't win talking to a parent. You really can't. So my whole focus will be talking to that young man and getting him to buy into what his skill set is, for him to, I always say, don't show what you do poorly, show what you do well. And then in practice, you're going to improve on what you do poorly. But in the game, always show what you do well. And now your parents may not agree with that. They might think he should be shooting 20 times. Every time he touches the ball, he should be shooting the ball, but he can't hit the doggone side of the backboard, But I'm not going to let a parent dictate to me how I should play a young man. I'll listen to that young man and ask him, what does he think? What do you think? What do you think I can do to help you to get better? Then I'm going to tell him what I think I can do to help him get better. So in answer to that question, I shouldn't say I don't care what the parent says, because there's some parents out there that are former players, coaches, and they know what they're talking about. And if I may listen to those parents, I definitely will listen to those parents. But a lot of the parents out there, they just want to see their son go out there and score 30 points every game.
Right.
They should be the primary guy. They should be up the court, have that skill set.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Coach Bowling, any thoughts on that? What you would say? I mean, have you dealt with a situation like that?
Yeah, I did. Last time it got me fired, but So,
My
but
dog.
what I'll say is, man, you really, I really don't. Before I tried to like make the parent feel good and all this type of stuff, and you talk to them and you talk to them, but then I was just like, you know what? At the end of the day, like, if your son can make plays, he's going to make plays. I'm not going to have him out there for us to lose games. And then, like, so when parents are telling me, like, oh, I want my son to shoot 20 times, I'm like, he doesn't even shoot 20 times in practice.
Right.
So, like, how can, you want this in the game, but they're not there. But then as a parent myself now, I realize, like, at the end of the day, you just got to take that with a grain of salt and just know they just want the best for the kid. But at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for the team. And that's what I always try to do now. And I really don't try to talk to the parents too much. I'll talk to them a little bit, but not like I used to. I used to just try to convince them, like, oh, this is it. This is it. Then next thing you know, you're in a situation where you're on the hot seat.
No, that's good stuff. Coach Hawkins, you probably have never dealt with this before, but maybe you could just talk about what you might do if you ever dealt with somebody saying you didn't use somebody correctly. You probably have.
No, it's something you always go through it. I think when you have a collection of talent, some people are going to be, my son wants to do this, my son wants to do that. I think what Damon said earlier on in our conversation, data doesn't lie, numbers don't lie, and so that's what you're going to be. The first thing is just putting that data out there, but also, like Damon said, let's put you in that situation. And then kind of let's see if you're able to thrive in that situation. And if you can't, then that's all you need to do is just go back and then have conversations with parents. And then kind of just say, hey, that may not be the best use, of him. And then that leads to what we talked about earlier. Maybe if you want to be in that situation, you probably need to go to post-grad if you're trying to work toward, let's say you're a 6'7" or 6'8" kid that wants to be a point guard or something like that, you probably don't need an extra year to kind of get that work or get that done. Just whereas if you got kids over here that can already play that role, I think, you're trying to just figure out what's the best way. We're trying to win games.
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing is winning games and, trying to put out a product that, people can enjoy, they want to see, and they want to play. If I said I was coming down running 55 sets, Damon and Coach Butler would reap the benefits because kids are not going to come over here. They want to get up and down. They want to play in the system and, shoot threes, get dunks, get layups, and press and stuff like that. And like I said, I've had to kind of change my philosophy on pressing. Just because, kids want to play more of that helter-skelter pace. We do it, in situations, but, just being open. But, I think sometimes you got to let them fail to let them know, hey, how we're using you is the right way. But in the summertime and then once the season's over, if you really think that you want to be that, that's when you kind of start working with that. And then now, okay, we'll put you in situations doing Charlie Hughes or when we go to team camps or when you go to an individual camp or something. Now you're able to see, if those things are there. And then, like I said, you just have conversations. And I always think you always got to come to the conclusion of, hey, if this is not, what we're doing over here, you don't think it's conducive to your son's success. And because you'll figure it out if it's individual or team success. And if it's individual success, they're going to leave and try to find a situation where it's for individual success versus, the team success and winning championships and everything else. Because, once you're winning at a high level, you're going to have all the schools come in. And then it may be a situation where a team will like, yeah, you know what, we envision them in that position. And we're going to work with them. So I think at the end of the day, it always works out. But I just think, with parents, just having an open mind and trusting the system and trusting the coach. And then that's it.
No, I agree. I agree with all of that. I mean, you hit it on the head. I mean, coaches want to win games, right? And we certainly want to help kids get to college and play. But I think one of the big things in this process, is whatever a kid is doing. I mean, the kid knows. The kid knows. Like if a kid, let's say, wants to be the point guard, a taller kid wants to be the point guard, they know if they're making plays. If they are making plays, I would imagine any of us on this session right now would have that guy as our primary ball handler, decision maker, to score, distribute, make plays, whatever, right? And I think the kid knows that. And I think one of the biggest things about when this happens is helping a kid understand that it's like it's not anybody else's fault. Like we can't let kids be like, oh, it's everybody else's fault because I don't get to do this, right? Because it can sometimes a parent, bad mouthing the coach at home, bad mouthing the coach in the community, whatever. I think a lot of times then the kid starts to think, well, this dude, the coach doesn't know what he's talking about, that sort of thing. We want to have kids that are coach proof. We want to build kids that can go in, whether it's Wabash, whether it's IPFW, whether it's Purdue, IU, wherever. We want kids that can go in and do the work that's required to get on the floor. And I think as long as they don't have that mentality where it's everybody else's fault, if I want to be the point guard, I need to go get better at that. I need to work on that. And so that's kind of my take on it all the time, because you're right. It's hard to ever completely please somebody if they feel that way. But you definitely want that kid to walk out of that situation better and stronger and able to handle any coach that they're going to come across. So any other questions, man? I told you guys I was going to try to keep it to less than 2 hours this time, but we just took 5 points, and you see we're already at 1 hour and 16 minutes. But I want to open it up to you guys for any questions or comments that you have that you feel, because again, this is about us helping parents and players, and we want to open it up for if anyone has questions that they can ask those. So I'd like to open it up to you guys. Hawk said, man, you already think I got all the kids coming over to me.
Hey, no, don't ever. I got 6. I'll put it out there. I probably got 6 more in me.
Okay.
So, we'll do that, and then we'll figure it out after that. But
okay.
Trying to outlast Damon for one more run.
I just got 1 year extension, so.
He said a 1 year extension.
If I have another season like last year, I'm probably gone.
They gonna put you on the block. Hey, Donnie, man, Donnie, he took off, I think, but no, that was funny. He said last time they got him fired. That dude. So, but no, Mel, man, we wish you the best of success.
I got a question then. So, I'm coming in new. I got young men out there that don't have a lot of experience. A lot of sophomores, a couple of seniors. The 2 seniors I got didn't play much last year. What would be your suggestion as far as starting to lay that foundation down for my program?
Yeah. You starting, Hawk, or you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing, like you said, I have no idea who this middle school kid or whatever this kid you said is going to Attucks. I have no idea who that is, but I think laying the foundation. I think my first year at Attucks, we were able to win a state title, but that next year the cupboard was very bare, and so just what was in the building, and then so just had to really kind of start going to the middle schools and kind of figuring out where we would be able to get kids that can kind of, get more talent in and everything like that. So like that middle school piece of keeping them in and developing them. But like I said, the biggest thing is just being, just being seen at those events, because once they see that you're there and you want them and you're a part of that middle school, probably you're not going to lose those kids. Those kids are going to want to come play for you and everything like that. So it's just setting that foundation in the middle school, and then you'll have the ones in high school that you'll be able to develop with now. And then once they see the success, Then once they see kids going to college off of that, it'll work. Like I said, with everybody, we all are gonna get some kids that, hey, we looked into this one or whatever, but you still got to make the most of your kids off of getting them from IPS. And I think, with our 2025 class, I think we did a hell of a job, at that IPS All-Star game, just getting a big foundation, because that's a big class for us. And then I think this incoming freshman class is another one that we did a good job as far as just securing kids or whatever. So, it's really that middle school piece is as far as just locking down the borders. As I would say, dealing with Omar and Coach Damon, they coming.
Nah, hey, I would say, Coach Mel, like, I would try to assess, maybe sit down with your seniors. And you said that they didn't play much last year, but can they handle leadership? Can they evolve into becoming the leaders of your team? And I mean, you'll find that out pretty quickly. Right. I think just how they work out. Are they winning conditioning drills? Are they showing up every day? And if they're not necessarily, going to be the leaders of the team, then it just becomes who is that person? Is it a sophomore? Is it a junior? Is it even a freshman? You got to start. I think in your situation, you're working from right now out. Right. I mean, it'll be great to when you can get to where you're locking down middle school and all of that. But I think just starting where you are now, I would at first try to just find who are my leaders that I think I'll be able to trust first, that can create your culture. You know what I'm saying? Because you'll start it, but once it's a player-led culture, those are going to become the best teams. And so hopefully that's your seniors, upperclassmen. But if it's not, then I wouldn't lose any sleep about it. You got to go with what's going to work, and start. If it's a sophomore class, then that's what it is. And then those guys are going to get a lot of run, but you're going to hold them to a standard, and then they're going to push everybody else, hopefully, in that program.
I think that's something I learned from my first year to last year. I kept a lot of seniors, just because they were there and things of that nature. And I should have really cut a few, just because were they head over heels, towards the sophomore and freshman? Not really. Did I keep them maybe because I thought they were going to be leaders? Yeah. And they were worse. And so it was like, I should have cut that baggage. Yeah, I'm gonna get my butt kicked. But I rather get my butt kicked with freshmen and sophomore, helping them understand the game, learning the process, changing the culture, and maybe even having kids who want to come in and be just like them. You know what I mean? And they're playing. And so when I think kids outside see young kids playing, they know the coach is not afraid to throw them in the fire. You know what I mean? And so I think that helps them also come to your school and say, I want to play for a coach like that. He's just not going to play seniors because they're seniors. He's going to play the people who he trusts, and that trust him. So if that's some advice, again, like Omar said, I wouldn't lose no sleep. It is what it is, but you have to do what's best for your program and building that, that program up. And if it's youth, then it's youth.
Mm-hmm. That's good stuff.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Any other comments or questions, thoughts, man, you guys want to share? I guess we should.
Hey, I got one.
Go ahead, Coach.
This is just me just asking a question. So I know we all have been on AAU programs and different things like that. Now, when your kids come to you and ask, hey, who should I play with? Or, those type of questions, are you going to push the group that you're with? Or do you try to just say, hey, go to each tryout? Because we have a lot of kids that, hey, I want to do this, but they may not be top level kids. And I know some of my, freshmen, sophomores may be watching this. So, how do you, tell your kids who want to be on those Indy Heats or Indiana Elites or these other ones about just kind of, approaching playing for programs or looking for programs to play for?
Yeah, go ahead, Damon, if you got something.
I mean, I try to be as transparent as I can. You know what I mean? Do I know maybe some could play? Most definitely. We all know it's a political game. You know what I mean? We all know who they will and who they won't accept. So I try to put them in the best situation as possible that fits the criteria of their game. You know what I mean? It may not be a EYBL or the 3SSB Indiana Elite Team. It could be more of a, an EG10, a Prodigy, a Team T. But again, understanding as we're all been AAU coaches, what coaches and programs are going to push kids to go to college. We've seen the kid from Prodigy and Butler make it. You've seen the kids from Team T. We weren't on the EYBL or 3SSB that made it. Coach Mel, his teams wasn't on that top level, but he has had kids, and so has Coach O, be successful at the next level. So I think really just being transparent in us knowing the climate and the coaches and the things, who's going to work for our kids, and putting them in the best situation possible, to be seen as successful and to get that skill work. You know what I mean? Not just they're going to roll out the balls during practice and get up and down, but who has trainers coming in and working on those skill sets that they need to be successful moving forward.
Yeah, I agree with that, Coach Damon. One thing I look at, like the 3SSBs, the Indy Heats, or just, your shoe level teams. I almost kind of look at it like the same way a college, when a kid is trying to consider colleges. I mean, the level, in this case, the team is typically going to pick the kid. I mean, it's not like most kids can just decide, I'm going to go to the Indy Heat tryout and I'm going to make that team.
Right.
Or 3SSB. The team is already eyeing that kid. And so, a lot of times kids, I don't think understand that, or parents. And so it's like I direct them. And I mean, like a guy like Mel Butler, who has and I'm going to throw the plug out for the Indy EBC. I've worked closely with him and, helped one of my kids get almost everything paid for at a great NAIA school, and that's just one example. But like, I know that the kid was good enough to get on the floor with him, and if he would have played on a shoe team, it might have been a 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th shoe level team, right? Probably playing in a back gym, not playing in the same events as the top teams. And so, you just got to really try to match. And I think we all do a pretty good job of matching, like, hey, this is where this kid is. You should probably go with this type of team. Here's 2 or 3 teams that may fit. Maybe it's EG10. Maybe it's, and I'm not, because EG is my man.
Oh, yeah, that's my guy. Most definitely.
But it's changed. Sometimes have changed throughout the years. Indiana Elite and Indy Heat probably have been closer to the top tier for the state for the longest. But you do want to try to match a kid up where they're going to play, because that's the most important thing, and get better, right? So, I mean, that's just kind of my take on it. It was one other thing I was going to say too, but like, you got to look at more than just the AAU program, Hawk, I think. But when you think about where some of these kids are going that are playing at the high levels, like the kid from Wisconsin that was on the all freshman team, went to Central Noble. He did play with 3 stripes, but again, he went somewhere off the path and killed it, scored 2,000 points, had a great career, built confidence. Now he's all Big Ten, freshman team, or the kid from last year. I don't know how in the heck he ended up at Kentucky, and if somebody said you can go to Lynn Stockton and then go to Kentucky, I'd have been like, no way. But that happened. And so again, kids got to go where they can produce. Production is the number one thing I would encourage any kid, any parent. Go where you can produce, because that's what gets you to the next, where somebody says, yes, I believe you can do that for me. If I'm a college coach, I believe that this kid can do that for me. So I'll leave it there.
Coach Mel?
Well, me being AAU, as a high school coach, I'll talk to the kid. I'll talk to his parents. In my AAU program, we're not, every kid is not D1. But when you think about it in Indianapolis, the majority of them aren't. They're D3, NAIA, D2, and JUCOs. That's where our program excels. So when I talk to a parent, I'm going to say, all right, looking at your young man's level, all right, he needs to go to to a program where, first of all, like O said, he's going to play. But also, what's his competition level? Who is he going to be playing against? So you want to see their schedule. We play NY2LA. They got the new, what is it? The new, not Puma. Is it Puma?
Yeah, Puma's the new.
So I don't know what their talent level is, but it's very important that if you want to get better, you got to play against the best possible talent as possible. Also, does that program develop? Do they train? Those are all important things. I know some programs, they go out there. I've gone to their practices. All they do is roll the ball out and they just get up and down the floor. That's their practice. Do you go to practice and you see that they're doing skill work? Are they working on their shooting? Are they working on their defensive concepts? When they play on the circuit, are coaches at their games? Is it worth you to pay $800, $900, $1,000 for a weekend for lodging and food to go with this team, and then you go there and there's no one watching that team play? All that's important. And that coach's history, on that program, what has he done? How many kids has he helped get into college? So all those are factors that I would talk to any of my players, my high school players. I would say, hey, this program may not be the best fit for you. You might want to go to this program. And that program may not be very popular, but if he's going to go there and he's going to play and that coach is going to work with him and make him a better player, then that's what I think. That's who I would push for him to go to.
No, I would imagine that's probably tough, Coach Hawkins. I mean, with you coaching the top team with the three stripes, most kids probably want to kind of go into that program. Yeah, but I think the best thing for all of them.
I'm not, and I think you always try to just have the conversations like, when Indiana Elite workouts. Nah, here go 6 other programs that you probably need to take a look at as far as just being able to play. Because at the end of the day, you're trying to make the best decision for them that'll help them individually. And then, you have an exit meeting, kind of at the end of the season. Hey, this is where I see you at. This is what you need to work on, and trying to get them, with the team. But with me, it's just always about, hey, where can you play? I'm not always going to say, yes, this is where you should go. You need to make the decision, you and your parents. I can always get dates for you. So, Team T got a tryout. Hey, go here. Indy.
Hawk, I think you froze. Or is that me?
No,
no, that's hard.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's I know he'll probably come back in, but I thought it was interesting. Last year, had a chance to coach Mr. Basketball, Marcus Burton, in the that Midwest Challenge game that Tony Leach does, and I had no idea who he played AAU for. And when he told me he played on the second Indy Heat team, I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Before he went to McIrvin.
Yeah, but I didn't know that. That's where he was. I figured, why wouldn't he be on the top team? But that was the right team, obviously, for him from a development, getting better. He still got good exposure. He, obviously ended up at Notre Dame, and he's a phenomenal player. But again, I mean, if even a kid at a top level like Mr. Basketball didn't play on the, so-called top Indy Heat team, I mean, I think any kid and parents got to sit down and look at this, closely. Like, hey, we need to pick the right team.
Right. I remember coming up. I remember Jaden Taylor. Jaden Taylor used to play on the second Team T team.
Wow.
In 8th grade.
He was nasty, boy.
Yeah,
I like it.
He sure did. He didn't really. I don't think he played on the top team. Maybe till his junior year.
Okay.
I don't think he got up there.
No, that's good stuff, man. Well, I think we lost Donnie, and I don't know if Chris is going to try to rejoin, but we've been on for a while. But I hope, anybody who's had questions will give another 10, 15 seconds. If you have any questions, comments, please feel free to put them in the chat. But this has been a great session. Coach Butler, Coach Damon, Coach Hawkins, Coach Bowling. I appreciate all you guys, man. Obviously, man, we'll end this call and we'll be competitors. I'm gonna be trying to beat all y'all, and vice versa. But
I'm only playing. We playing Tech this year. That's the only one on our schedule, so I got to figure that one out.
Okay.
Hopefully, I don't. Never mind. I ain't gonna say what I'm thinking. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, man. But overall, man, what I want to say with you guys, there's not a better group of guys that I'd rather compete against that I know have the heart for these kids. I mean, it's not easy to do this today with all of the stuff we deal with in society, with all of the stuff in the areas that we coach. We all in the city, and there's challenges, whether it be, meals for a kid. I mean, picking up tabs. I mean, all that stuff. And basically, I just want to say I appreciate all of you guys and for willingness to come on to share some of the different wisdom that you have about basketball for parents and kids, because really the biggest thing is to grow perspective. And I think the more perspective we have with parents, the better they can help educate their kids. When the kid's not playing, back in our day, a lot of the parents would be like, you better get to work. You got to do more. You shouldn't be sleeping in on Saturdays, or you better start running some mileage or whatever the case, or dribbling.
Right.
And so I hope that we can, Hawks coming back in. I hope that we can help with adding some of that perspective back into parents, because ultimately that's just going to make the kids better. If we're the worst, that the kid is hearing, like the coach is always on me about this or about that. If we're not the only one saying it, and if the parent is saying that as well, I think that gives your kid a chance to really, really improve. And so, we all want success for the kid, but the success comes after the intention of work and listening and being coachable and doing the things that they need to do to get better. So, let's see, Coach Hawkins, any closing comments? We lost you there for a second, but any closing thoughts that you have before we wrap up?
No, man, just appreciate coming on and being able to, talk to the parents, talk to the kids, and just, excited for another season, being able to hopefully play you guys, and good luck to you in your seasons. And, we're getting old. That's the one thing. We are getting old. So, hey, maximize your time,
Absolutely.
love on your family. And I think that's the biggest thing, man. Hey, I've lost a lot of relatives within this past year and the last 2 or 3 years. So I think that family aspect has hit me even more, of just spending time, kids, everything. We're here at the gym late, but just, taking extra time as far as with the, my kids and everything, and just, with the family aspect, because as coaches, we can get dialed in, throughout a whole season, but just make sure that you make time for your family and everything like that.
Absolutely. I do want to throw this out there. Next Sunday, we're going to be back on with referees, because I think that's another area that we've seen some things kind of go haywire. And we'll have my girl, Lachelle Hatcher, who I think she almost teched me up the last time we played. But Lachelle's going to be on. Chris Shields, who we all know, is going to be on. And then I think the superstar, Rob Wan, internet guru, internet sensation, Rob Wan will be on. But we're going to talk to them about how parents can, get better dealing with referees. And obviously there's a shortage of referees because of all of the stuff that's gone on, in not just basketball, multiple sports. But just kind of talking about the mindset and the path to become a referee, because we all need them. We all have to have referees to play our games. And we all have probably dealt with in the past couple of years. I know we were short a referee at the Charlie Hughes game we had last year.
Mm-hmm.
One of our games, we had 1 or 2 out of 3. Out of the 3 referees, we had, I think, 1, and then a second one showed up. But we're going to talk to referees, and then the following week, we're going to come back and do this with girls' high school coaches as well. So we'll have Stacy from over at Warren Central, Janan Lampley at LC, Nick Carruthers, Decatur Central, and Justin, what's Justin's last name, out at Tri West, I believe it is. We're going to have them come on and talk about some of the challenges, you know, with girls coaching, and just some of the things that can help those parents as well, because we want to be equal opportunity here for all of our young people. So really, really appreciate everyone coming on tonight. Mel, any closing comments you want to say?
Well, again, I appreciate you inviting me on with the rest of these guys. You know, it's a learning experience for me as well. You know, I appreciate you guys' advice. Again, good luck this season. Again, I'm just happy you invited me on this time. I really appreciate it, man.
Absolutely, man, for sure, man. You do a lot of good stuff, brother.
Coach O, it look like somebody won't play Tech.
I know I got 3 players on here talking about we get Tech. Tech is on the schedule. I think it's February something.
I just wanted to say that, Coach Damon, look like they ready. They ready.
Hey, don't tell your team, no, Coach Damon.
Oh, we're away, right? We're away.
Y'all come to us this year?
Yeah, we come to you. Yep.
Oh yeah, y'all get to come to the Tindley pit. You know, the fans is right up on you.
They really are.
You feel and hear everything at Tindley, that's for sure.
Yeah, I always hear fire coach. That's all I hear.
Hey, so any last comments from you, Damon?
I just appreciate you. Anytime you can get us on with the GOAT, Chris Hawkins. I mean, that's some awesome stuff right there. So no, I appreciate everyone. Good luck to everyone in their season, and go Tech.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Man, I appreciate you, brothers, man. Yes, sir.
Hey, we got one more question, though. This from Lampley. In terms of recruiting, what are the little things a player can do to be a high-level recruit?
Go ahead and take that, Coach Hawkins. What you got?
I mean, it's all about your work ethic, how hard you want to work, and getting in the gym and just being a sponge and, you know, going to, I think, camps to test your level and where you at. And then I just think, you know, Monday through Sunday, you know, there's no off days right now. If you want to be a high-level kid, man, there's no off days. And so I just think, you know, that's how you separate yourself from being, you know, a great high school player to an elite high school player. And so, you know, and also the weight room and getting your core stronger. I think those things are the little things that you can do. And I think the biggest thing, you know, players, and we have to talk about it to, you know, to our players. I'm sure you guys do, you know, be a great listener. You know, when you can take things and apply them and be able to do that. I mean, that's half the battle, man. Half the battle is just being a good listener and knowing exactly when to do what and how to do things. And so that's just my thing from little old me now. Coach Damon has been on ESPN, so let's hear his take.
What was the question, Coach? I mean,
in terms of
go ahead, Coach. Go ahead, Hawk.
In terms of recruiting, what are the little things a player can do to be a high level recruit?
I think high character. I think you have to have, you know, high character, be coachable. Again, like you said, Coach, listen, work ethic, and just be able to be a grinder. You got to be able to grind. And I think a niche that sometimes perturbs me is kids want to work out, but they want to work out on everything they already do well. You know what I mean? And not do things that they don't do well. You know, I can shoot the hell out of a ball. Well, I'm gonna just come in here and shoot. But you ain't got no left hand. You know what I mean? So I think those things, understanding what to work on, when to work on, and how to work on it, are things that helps you, you know, be elite. You know what I mean? So that's my take on it.
Coach Mel.
Well, everything that Hawk and Damon said, I agree with. I would add to that goal setting. You know, setting specific goals out there that others would not. Establishing priorities. You know, if you want to play at that level, there's some things you just can't do. I mean, you know, I'm not gonna say you can't be in a relationship or anything like that, but it can affect you. You need to be able to focus. Being an elite player is 7 days a week. So having outside influences can deter you from your goal. Also having a strong support system, having your mom, your dad, a coach that's going to advise you and guide you. Because, these young men at this age, sometimes they get deterred or that the social media might hit and they start thinking other ways. And then you need someone that's going to be able to push you back and keep you on that path. But in the end, you got to have your priorities set. I know, you want to go hang out with the fellas, but, that guy who you're competing with, you hanging out with the fellas or you out with your girl, he's in the gym and he's putting work in, so all that matters. If you want to play at the next level, that's what you have to do.
No, I agree with 100%. All you guys. I can't remember who said it, but the saying is, "You are what you repeatedly do." You are what you repeatedly do. And I think one of the biggest things that I see about the kids, and I've talked to college coaches about it, is if a coach walked in the gym for 5 minutes, what would they see you do? And I think you got to figure out what it is you do really, really well and do that consistently, and then keep adding things and stacking. I know Kobe Bryant used to say, he tries to add one move every year, right? Not 5, but just one. But stacking not just the days, but stacking on the consistency, because you doing it all the time allows you. If you're a high level rebounder, you should be a high level rebounder every night. If you're a high level scorer, you should be scoring every night, regardless if the team has film on you. In high school, you ought to have a counter to a counter, or able to relocate and then make shots. But I think just being able to find whatever it is you do, whatever your superpower is, and do that consistently, and then keep adding and stacking onto that, versus trying to do, everything. So I think that's another thing, because I think when a coach can walk away and say, man, that kid does this, and then they see him 3 months from now at the Charlie Hughes, man, that kid did the same thing. Then they see him in July, he did the same thing. Well, now I feel like he might be able to do that for me.
Mm-hmm.
So just try to get really, really consistent with whatever it is your superpower is. So that's kind of my comment there. All right, man. Well, I appreciate everybody, man. We found a way. 2 hours. I love it. Just about. But we can talk about this stuff all day and night. Right. That's for sure. And we certainly could talk about helping kids forever. Right. But man, I appreciate you guys again. Good luck with your seasons. I'm sure we'll be talking. And love to have you guys back sometime, maybe later on after the season. We can recap again. But everyone, have a great night. And thanks again.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you. All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.